If you started this video thinking that 2026 needs to be different, you are not alone. Hi, today in this video, I will talk about what to do if you want 2026 to be the best year of your life. You are probably tired of starting over, of making goals list, of promising yourself that this time it will work, and for a while it seems like it will. But then everything slips back, old habits return, motivation evaporates, and that transformation plan turns into yet another cycle of frustration. Maybe you have already asked yourself, what's wrong with me? The answer is nothing. But there is something very wrong with what you were taught about change. Most people believe that the secret to changing their lives lies in working harder, having more discipline, more focus, more willpower. But science says otherwise. Carol Dweck, one of the most respected psychologists in the world, discovered that what really separates those who change from those who stagnate is not effort. It is mindset. It's the way you think about yourself, especially when you fail. There is an invisible belief inside you right now. If you feel that you were not born for this, that you have never been good with discipline, or that you always give up halfway, you are operating with a mixed mindset. This mindset says that your abilities are permanent, that trying and failing is humiliating, that effort is a sign of weakness. And as long as this belief is alive, no new year will be truly new. But there is another way, one that you may have never considered. The growth mindset says that no limitation of yours is permanent, that effort is not shameful. It is the way that every failure can be valuable information, and that you are not here to prove that you are perfect, you are here to become better. If this resonates with you, then yes, this video was made for you, because 2026 will not be your best year because you work harder. It will be your best year because you will think differently, and it all starts now. Perhaps the biggest obstacle between you and the life you want to live is not a lack of discipline, talent, or focus. It may be the way you interpret your limits. Most people don't realize it, but they live trapped in statements that carry a silent and destructive weight. I'm not good with numbers. I don't have creativity. I never been organized. I just can't. These phrases seem harmless, but they are traps, because every time you say that, you are not describing a temporary situation. You are defining an identity. You are asserting without realizing it that this is who you are. And when your mind believes that a limitation is part of who you are, it stops looking for exits. You adapt to stagnation. You learn to live with what limits you, as if it were an inhabitable part of you. This is exactly what Carol Dweck challenged with her theory on mindset by studying children facing difficult changes. She noticed something that changed everything. Those who evolved the most were not the ones who got the most answers right, but those who could see mistakes as part of the process. Those who, even in the face of difficulty, thought, I don't know how to do this yet. The word yet may seem small, but it carries a genetic shift. It shifts the perception from identity to process, from destination to development. When you say, I don't know how to do this yet, you are actually asserting that you will know. That changes everything. Your brain responds differently, your behavior changes, your willingness to try, fail, repeat, and learn increases, and that's where the magic happens. When you stop using I am to define your limitation and start using I don't know how to do this yet, and you give an internal command for expansion. You declare that you are not finished, that you are not defined, that you are in transformation. See how this applies in your real life. Do you say I can't stick to a routine? Correct it. I haven't found a routine that works for me yet. Do you believe you weren't born to lead? Correct it. I haven't developed the leadership skills I need yet. Do you feel incapable of focusing? Correct it. I haven't built an environment and a system that support my focus yet. Do you see? This simple linguistic shift reprograms your internal system. It interrupts the automatic pattern of self-sabotage that asserts I am this way and replaces it with a mindset that says I'm in the process of becoming. But this is not just a language technique, it's a way of seeing yourself. And here is an exercise that can start to truly change your life. Choose 3 negative statements you usually say about yourself. Don't shy away from it. Face them honestly. Write them down. Then rewrite each one with yet. And don't just read. Repeat it daily until this new narrative starts to take root. This may seem too small to generate real transformation, but it's precisely in the small shifts of perception that the process of deep change begins. Big transformations starts when you break the internal pattern that says your failures are final, and yet is a gateway to a growth mindset. At some point in your life, you failed. You tried something, dedicated yourself, exposed yourself, perhaps even truly believed it would work. And then it didn't. And it's very likely that after that, a voice whispered in your mind, see, you are not good enough. Maybe it was a low grade, a project that never got off the ground, an attempt to change a habit that lasted only 2 weeks. Maybe it was something bigger, a business that didn't succeed, a relationship that ended badly, a decision that led to regret. Most people carry these experiences like scars that never fully heal. They don't just remember the failure, they define themselves by it. And this is one of the cruelest mechanisms of a mixed mindset. It turns isolated events into permanent labels. It's information and not identity. And this simple shift in interpretation separates those who keep trying from those who spend the rest of their lives hiding from mistakes. People with a growth mindset also feel pain when they fail. They also get frustrated, disappointed, and question themselves. The difference is that they don't use failure as an excuse to give up. They use it as fuel to adjust. They extract meaning from the mistake. They ask, what did I learn this time? And this question opens the door to the next level. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you decided to create a new habit, waking up early for instance. You try for a week, 2, but end up sleeping late again and lose the rhythm. Your fixed mindset says, you are not disciplined. There is no point in trying. And with that, you give up. Not the attempt, but the very idea that you can change. Now see the same scenario through the lens of growth mindset. The failure to wake up early is not a sentence. It's a fact. You analyze and ask, why did I fail? What was missing? And maybe you realize that you are going to bed too late, that your phone keeps you in bed until the early hours. For that, your evening routine is disorganized. With this information, you adjust. You take the phone out of the bedroom, set a fixed bedtime, and try again. This is real growth. That's why here are 3 questions you should ask every time something goes wrong in 2026. What did I experience? And this time I spent on this ability taught me specifically. What is the one thing I can do differently next time? Did this failure take me away from or bring me closer to the person I'm trying to become? These questions are not magic, but they are a powerful mechanism for reconstruction because they force you to shift from a victim mindset to a learner mindset. And it's this mindset that allows you to turn every loss into lesson. When you see failure this way, it loses its power to paralyze you. It doesn't disappear, but it stops being a wall and becomes a new territory. Mirror. You will and feel in that mirror, you don't see a defeated person. You see someone in progress. But there is something even deeper that separates those who grow from those who stagnate. The relationship with discomfort. That they are on the wrong path. Because learning from failure is only possible knowing when you have the courage to step back into the territory and when you fail. The fixed mindset screams in their heads, saying, if it were meant for you, exposing yourself to discomfort may be the most powerful and they rush back to where make 2026 the best year of your life. Also where nothing changes. If you want comfort may seem like a momentary relief, but in the long run, it's one of the most you need to strive environments for those who want to evolve. Comfort
deliberately choose to be uncomfortable.
spoils you. It
You
keeps
need
you
to
where it
commit
is
to
safe,
being a
and
beginner
where it is
again.
safe, there
You
is
need
really
to train the
transformation.
emotional
Carol
muscle
Dweck observed a
that
fascinating pattern
allows
in
you
her
to stay in
research.
the pain of
People with a fixed
temporary
mindset tend to
incompetence,
choose tasks that
because
confirm their
that is what will
existing
lead
abilities.
you to real
They ask
competence.
areas where they know they will succeed because they
Choose
want
a
to
skill you have
reinforce
been
the image
avoiding
that they are
precisely because
competent.
it scares
On the
you.
other hand,
The one
people
that
with a growth
makes you think,
mindset do
I'm
the
not good
opposite.
at
They
this.
willingly place themselves in
This
situations
isn't
where
for
they know
me.
they are not yet proficient.
Now commit
They
to
expose
that skill
themselves,
for
they
the
take
next
risks,
6
they
months.
actively seek
Not to
discomfort,
become a master
not because they
immediately,
enjoy failing,
but to
but because
accept being
they
bad at the
understand something
beginning
that
and
most
to keep
ignore.
going anyway.
It's
For
a
example,
discomfort that
if
skill
public
begins
speaking
to
terrifies
emerge.
you, commit to
Think of any
practicing if
area of your
it's
life
just
that you
recording
admire in
videos for
someone
yourself.
else. It could be public
If
speaking,
you're
leading a
afraid
team,
of learning
maintaining a
something technical
disciplined
like
routine,
programming or finance, start with
creating
the most
content,
basic
learning a language,
fundamentals
programming,
without
selling, training,
rushing. The
meditating,
key here
any of
is
them.
not to
In
master,
all these
it's
areas, to
the beginning
persist
is
in
uncomfortable.
discomfort.
You will feel awkward, insecure, even ridiculous at times. But if you keep going, inevitably you get good because the brain is plastic. It learns, adapts, transforms the chaos of uncertainty into clarity. But only if you stay in the battlefield long enough for that to happen. And here is an important detail: discomfort, when accepted as part of the process, ceases to be an enemy that becomes a compass. If you are not occasionally feeling incompetent, it's a sign that you are not challenging yourself enough. Discomfort is not a sign that you are in wrong place. It's a sign that you are exactly where you need to be grow. But there is a second hidden obstacle on the path, as powerful as the fear of discomfort: the fear of criticism. Because it's not enough to try something new, you will also have to deal with the opinions of others. And if you do not know how to turn criticism into fuel, it can stop you before you even begin. This is exactly when we will talk about it on this. Just having someone point out a flaw suggests that you could have done better or show disapproval, and suddenly your mind starts to scream. Insecurity explodes, defense mechanisms rise, and everything inside you seeks a way to escape that uncomfortable feeling of being judged. You feel as if your identity has been attacked, as if that comment was not about something you did, but about who you are. This is the classic reflection of someone operating with a fixed mindset. For this type of mentality, any criticism is a direct threat to your worth as a person. It activates the protective instinct. You shut down, you retaliate, you justify, or worse, you silently shame yourself and start to doubt your own abilities. Gradually, the criticism that could have been a tool for refinement turns into another brick in the wall of stagnation. But the truth is that criticism only destroys you when you see it as an attack, not as an opportunity. When receiving criticism, your automatic reaction will be to defend yourself. This is naturally and expected, but you need to train your mind not to react immediately. Breathe, hold back the impulse to retaliate. Give yourself space to process before responding. Number two, look for hidden value. Even if the criticism was poorly deliberately delivered with judgment or arrogance, ask yourself, is there at least 10% of useful truth here? Almost always there is. It could be about the posture, your way of communicating, your performance, your focus. Identify what is relevant and ignore the rest. 3. Thank with maturity. Yes, this may seem counterintuitive, but thanking someone for their criticism, even if uncomfortable, is a sign of strength, not submission. Saying something like, "Thank you for showing me the perspective," breaks the defensive cycle and opens space for constructive dialogue, even if the other person doesn't expect it. Number 4, extract a specific action. Turn the criticism into a next step. Ask yourself, what can I do differently from this? Criticism is only valuable if it moves you to action. Otherwise, it becomes dead weight. For example, imagine you present a project at work and your manager says that there was a lack of clarity in the explanation. The fixed mindset would hear, "You are incompetent." The growth mindset would say, "Maybe I need to improve my communication." And from that, you can decide to study presentation techniques, practice more, or ask for more specific feedback. As long as you run away from criticism, you will be running from a fundamental part of your growth. But there is something even more subtle that prevents you from moving forward. It's not just the fear of making mistakes or being criticized. It's the obsession with perfection. It's the inability to recognize progress unless it looks spectacular. And this leads to next step. Because if you only allow yourself to feel good when you achieve perfection, you will sabotage 99% of your progress. It does not reveal itself at the beginning when the excitement of change is at its peak, nor does it appear explicitly like a visible failure. In fact, it disguises itself as a noble demand, as a high standard, as I accept nothing less than the best. But behind this perfectionist facade lies one of the greatest causes of early quitting: the inability to recognize and value progress. You have experienced this. You started something new, a habit, a project, a change in mindset. You did something right for a few weeks or days, and yet when you looked in the mirror, you saw no significant changes. Anxiety took over, impatience grew, and instead of celebrating the steps taken, you devalued everything because you were still far from ideal. This is the logic of a fixed mindset. If the result is not perfect, it's as if nothing has happened. If it's not a complete success, it's a complete failure. It's all for or nothing, and that nothing swallows your effort as if it had no value. Carol Dweck observed this in students, athletes, entrepreneurs, and leadership. People who consistently grew had one trait in common: they knew how to value the process. They could feel proud of a small advance, of a risk taken, or an honest attempt. Even when the result was still imperfect, they did not wait to reach the top to feel they were doing well. They knew that every step they took, no matter how small, was part of the journey. This is the growth mindset in its most mature form. It understands that real growth is rarely visible in the short term, that the greatest transformations happen in silence behind the scenes, that before being admired by others, you need to learn to see your own evolution. Therefore, here is a concrete practice that can completely change your relationship with progress: the weekly wins ritual. It works like this. At the end of each week, choose a fixed day, like Sunday. You feel write down 3 wins of the week, but with one important rule. At least one of these wins cannot be linked to results, but rather to effort or internal evolution. Examples of valid wins: I did something I had been postponing for weeks, not for what was done, but for overcoming resistance. I studied even when I didn't feel like it, because that shows consistency. I asked for help instead of pretending. I knew everything, because that shows humility and willingness to grow. I was criticized, and instead of reacting, I listened and learned something, because that is emotional maturity. I tried something new even with fear, because courage is not the absence of fear, it's action despite it. When you start to record and celebrate these wins, something profound happens. Your brain begins to associate well being with progress and no longer just with perfection. This completely changes the way you motivate yourself. You stop waiting for great achievements to feel you are on the right path. You learn to nourish yourself from the journey. And when this becomes a habit, you not only grow faster, you grow sustainably, because you are no longer driven solely by external validation, but by an internal sense of building. What you need to understand is simple yet powerful. You do not become a better person when you reach some distant place. You become a better person when you start walking and do not stop. 2026 will be extraordinary. Not when you achieve perfect goals, but when you learn to recognize with gratitude and firmness each small achievement along the way. But for all of this to materialize, there is a decision that needs to be made now. A simple choice, but one that can redefine the course of your life. Now, you just need to start willing to evolve. And here is the final invitation, the turning point. Choose an area of your life where until now you have been operating with a fixed mindset. That silent phrase that keeps repeating in your head. I'm not good at this. This isn't for me. I have never been able to. Now, transform that phrase. Add the yet. Rewrite it. And for the next 7 days, take a tiny action, an action so small that there is no excuse not to do it, just to prove to yourself that you are in motion, not to feel perfect, but to put yourself in construction. 2026 starts now, not on the calendar, not at the New Year's party, now. And every time you act from this new mindset, you will be practically shaping the person you will be when December arrives. This is the kind of choice that doesn't just transform a year, it transforms an entire life. Now it's up to you. If this message resonates with you, comment below. I choose to grow. Write this down, not just for me, but for yourself, to mark this moment as a turning point. And when you are done, don't stop here. The next video is just as important as this one. It will show you a new level of clarity that you have not accessed yet. Your 2026 has already begun and you are not going to stop now. Thank you so much for your time.